யூடியூப் ஸ்ட்ரீம் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. அவங்க லிங்க் அனுப்பிச்சாரு, நான் போட்டுறேன் சார்.
ஓகே ஓகே.
Good afternoon. Selvin sir, good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. Selvin, sir. Can you hear me?
Hello. 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 Sam, are you there? Can you hear me? Can you hear me in the Zoom?
Selvin, sir, this is Sarath here from DFT. We are just checking, sir. Is it correctly working in YouTube live chat? Like that, we are checking.
Hello.
Selvin sir.
Hello.
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 Sam, can you hear me?
Sir, yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Okay. Sam, can you hear me?
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir.
Sam, good evening. Sam, can you hear me?
Sir, yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Oh, no. Thank you. Thank you.
Selvin sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, are you comfortable, sir?
Yeah, who is this?
Sir, this is HR from DFT. Sarath, sir.
Sharath, how are you?
Sir, fine, sir.
Video put it in Papa.
இல்ல வீடியோ எனக்கு இல்ல சார் ஆக்சுவலி
என்ன
we
பாக்குறீங்க?
can see you.
இது நம்ம ஃபாதர் வணக்கம் ஃபாதர். Hey Francis.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm already there. Yeah.
You were nervous about me, huh?
Oh
Hey,
yeah,
I see
I
a
know. Yeah, because
I see a little bit of gray there,
yeah, you
Salman.
didn't pick my phone.
Oh, no,
yeah,
I didn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I could see that. Where is that? Francis, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. And Francis, officially, I would thank you when everyone has joined, and unofficially, we have some minutes for a chit chat. It's good to see you, and thanks a lot for accepting the invitation. And I'm
Oh, thanks a lot for
happy
offering it.
to-
I appreciate the chance. You probably should tell everybody to turn off their microphones when we get started.
Who is here now?
Yeah.
Arena. Already started.
Sam, would you please mute everyone's mic?
So yes, sir, just now I have done that.
The challenge.
Yeah.
Start.
Oh, Francis, so is that your entire book load and shelf load of books? What?
No, this is just 10% of it.
Okay.
I
Still a
know.
bunch
So
upstairs.
is this the first floor or the ground floor?
This is the first floor in the dining room.
Oh, dining room. Okay.
Yeah. I am beginning to think of selling them.
You want to sell these books?
Yes. Oh, we are thinking about moving into an apartment. And so I couldn't have all these books there.
Okay, then I'll come and get it.
Well, the problem is no one wants to buy them.
So
There's a stat that came out recently in the United States. In the United States, only 20% of the population reads books for entertainment. That they don't read books anymore. Less than 50% of the people in the United States have read one book in the last year.
So
Isn't that
today we're going
crazy?
to discuss about the death of the publishing industry.
Exactly.
Do you remember when we used to go to the Strands? And I think we were only the last crazy people buying books.
Yes, we probably will be. Well,
Yeah.
I remember that. I was thinking about saying that in today's meeting. That's how come I know I was still interested in literature. Selwyn and I went to the Strand, and we each came back with 2 bags of books to a business meeting.
Okay.
And remember, everybody looked at us. What are you doing?
Yeah. Francis, I just wanted to ask you whether do we still have the Strands in New York?
Yes, it's still there. Yes.
Oh, still surviving. Wow, that's great. Okay.
Well, they probably have enough
What
books to
happened to
sell.
the please go ahead.
At this point, they probably don't buy any new books. They probably just sell everything they have.
Oh,
There was a guy in Minneapolis that sold a lot of first editions, and I tried to sell my first editions to him. And he said, "Do you see the books in this bookstore? I've got 4 warehouses that have the same amount of books in them that aren't on display right now. So I really don't need any more books.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay. And Francis, talking about books and people, the reading practice has come down. Uh, what happened to the Broadway theaters and off-Broadway theaters? What is the status of theaters there?
they're still there. There's still some hits going on, but it sounds like the traffic is much less than it used to be. I mean, remember I'm in that arts organization that has a live theater and a movie theater, and we're just doing
Okay.
horrible. That nobody's coming out anymore.
Okay.
So
So I think
it's
everyone has a screen on their palm, and they want to see all the movies in their cell phones itself. Correct?
yes, yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, streaming has wrecked it to a certain extent. Even
Okay.
though I love streaming because I can
Okay.
see things that I used to not be able to see.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Yeah.
My son is recording all of our DVDs. Remember, I had that huge DVD collection.
Yeah, I was about to ask about that question. What happened to those DVDs?
Well, I still have them. My son is recording them and putting them on a server that we can watch at will. Then, so right now we've got 1,200 films on the server, and we're only like about a fourth done with all the films. It's outrageous.
Oh, so if you're going to do that in a server, you can give access to me. I can also watch. So you're potentially running a Netflix.
I wonder how much trouble I would get in if I did that.
Maybe people like me who's not going to really say everything to the crowd in the public, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good idea. I really appreciate. I think he was a history buff. He's become a technical buff now, technology
Well,
buff.
my son is the technical buff.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, okay, coming back to business, we have still 8 more minutes, and Francis, what we did was a lot of uh, registrations have come, and there is another person called Sam. He's managing that Zoom platform, and we have put all the students in common sort of a small theaters in the classrooms.
Okay.
So we have smart boards in the classrooms. So students are
Okay.
watching in multiple locations in from different places, and we have 7 more minutes. And if you want to take a little break, maybe you can switch off the video and audio, and maybe you can come back after 7 minutes, maybe 6 minutes or 5 minutes.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. I
So
will
that you
do.
can have one more folk.
And then you'll introduce me.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. I will take over and guide you over there. So I am back.
I still drink the Diet Coke, Salvin.
Yeah, I know. And Francis, we have now 86 participants in Zoom. That is, typically I want to say it as logins. You could see other videos, the classroom videos.
Oh, cool.
So can you ask the classrooms to the videos that one? Maybe in some smart boards it's possible and some it's not possible. Maybe just like it to start with, and then we can close it down because we face severe internet bandwidth issues.
Yes.
So you're already saying that my internet connection is unstable. Now, because too many people are logging in from the same network. Give me a second. Francis, shall we start?
Hey, it's up to you. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, all. St. Joseph University, Tamil Nadu welcomes all of you to this international webinar. I would like to invite Reverend Father Devasagayam to initiate with an invocation.
Hello.
Yes, Father, you may start.
And of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, God, our loving Father, thank you very much for this day. Thank you very much for this international webinar that you have given to us this time. Shower your blessings upon each and every one of us. especially our resource person, Francis Fergus from America. He will he will inspire us through his talk. Bless all our participants through this webinar. Bless in each every one of us for this initiation, so that we will enrich the knowledge, the power of the webinar for our future career. We ask this through Christ, our Lord Jesus.
Oh, thank you, Father. Okay. This is a happy occasion that I would love to introduce Mr. Francis Hyde. Before going there, I would love to introduce our university first. St. Joseph University, Tamil Nadu is managed by the DMI Foundations Trust, which is a faith-based organization in Tamil Nadu, India, associated with the Society of Daughters of Mary Immaculate DMI and its collaborators, Society of Missionaries of Mary MMI. Both societies and the trust were founded by Reverend Father Dr. J.E. Arulraj. Our mission, vision, and motto. Our motto is loving God and serving the poor to be fully human and fully alive. The trust is engaged in education, childcare and welfare, women's empowerment, community health, relief, and rehabilitation. If I take education as a service area, the trust operates more than 40 schools in India and in Africa. And we have 5 universities, 3 universities in Africa, 2 universities in India, 1 in Nagaland, and St. Joseph University, Dindivan is the recent university. And we have 7 engineering colleges, added with 3 education colleges and 2 arts and science colleges. And this is a behemoth that is growing day by day. St. Joseph University has a School of Science and Humanities, which the Department of English is associated with. The Department of English is happy to welcome Mr. Francis Hyde as a gifted speaker. I would say, I personally know Francis Hyde. He's a gifted speaker, and more than that, he's a great thinker too. I know him personally, and I have worked with him personally. Francis Hyde is a great literature, and I would say no one would have read that much of books, even in the departments of literature or whatever it might be. He worked. In fact, he worked for 40 years, I think, close to 40 years in Advanced Star Communications, where I was associated with, and he was my client for 8-9 years, and we had a very lovely relationship. And Francis knows film, history, literature, and whatnot. He's well-read, and he's a voracious reader, and he's very knowledgeable person. I'm very happy to bring Francis Hyde in this platform because he himself has enacted this play. What play we are talking about? The death of Salesman. He acted as a character in that, and I don't know, when he was in college, he did that, and then he went to participate in the board of film producing company, and he was a host. He was producing TV shows and one film, and he's still active in the media industry. He's a consultant, and I can talk about him, till next 1 hour. I would love to stop here, and I am very happy on behalf of St. Joseph University, on behalf of our founder chancellor, Reverend Father Dr. J. Arulraj, and our vice chancellor, Dr. Subbiya Bharvi, and our department students. We would love to welcome my dear friend, philosopher, and guide, I would rather say, Francis Hyde, to this platform to render a beautiful talk. I know it's going to be beautiful. Welcome, Francis, and the stage is yours. If you may
Thank you,
share your
Selvin.
presentation now.
Yeah, thank you, Selvin. I'm sure I do not deserve all those words of praise. Uh, I am going to open the presentation now. And so
And share.
today, I'd like to talk about, first of all, thank you to St. Joseph University. The description you gave of the organization sounds very admirable, Selvin. I mirror our friendship. We developed a friendship working together, and it's one I'll never forget. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the chance to give you all this introduction. So let's do it. Let's talk about Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. We're going to start off with a little agenda. I'm going to start off, this is the introduction. Then I'll talk a little bit about me and Arthur Miller, more about me. And then we'll go to Arthur Miller and talk about him. We'll go over the performance history of Death of a Salesman. We'll talk about some of the influences on Arthur Miller and the Death of a Salesman. Something that turns out to be very important is the definition of tragedy. We'll go through talking about some tragedies. And then I'll get into a couple of interpretations where we talk about the American dream. Is this a positive example of the American dream or a negative example? And finally, we'll do a character analysis to try to help us understand the play a bit more. And finally, we'll end with a Q&A session. So you're all welcome to ask questions. To prove Selvin's point that I was indeed in the play, here's the program for the actual play that I was in. I played Biff Loman. I did it in high school. My high school was very good in terms of drama. I had a director who was just wonderful and was a big influence on my life. I attended St. John's University and the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks. And then I made the big move to New York to go to Columbia University, where I got my master's degree in English Lit. Then, as Selvin mentioned, I was a long-term employee at Advanced Star Communications, working in New York, Orlando, and Duluth, Minnesota. As Selvin said, I've always thought of myself as sort of an outsider in that in the business world, people thought I was weird because I did all this stuff with art. And in the art world, they thought I was weird because I was this businessman on the side. That was my primary life. But I was president and drama critic of a local arts newspaper. I founded the Duluth Film Festival, which ran for 3 years. And then I was also chairman of the board at Zeitgeist Arts and Community.
Francis, sorry to interrupt you, Francis.
Yes?
Do you want to share? Do you want to share your presentation?
I thought I did.
No, it is not.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
There is a button called share.
Yep.
Yeah, press that. Now it's okay.
Okay. So now I'll go in again. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, now you can put it in a slide mode.
Okay.
Yeah, you all
sorry
set?
about that, guys.
You're all set now. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I was chairman of the board for Zeitgeist and then executive producer on a film and TV series. We turned it both into a film and a TV series called The Hunter. But first, more important, let's talk about Arthur Miller. He was born on October 17th, 1915, and died on February 10th, 2005. He was actually born on 112th Street in Manhattan, and I lived on 113th Street for a while. And so, again, the closeness between me and Arthur Miller. He was the second of 3 children of a Jewish emigre father and a mother born in New York City. His father got very rich. He had a chauffeur. He ran a women's clothing business, had about 400 employees. But the 1929 stock market crash and the following depression caused him to lose everything, and they ended up moving to Brooklyn. Miller then had to work, to take jobs on the side, to earn money, to help support the family, to support himself, to get him ready to go to college. And in fact, he was going to go to the University of Michigan, and they rejected him. A, because he didn't have enough money, and B, because he wasn't that great a student in high school. So he wrote a letter to the dean and said, I promise you that I'm better than I look like on my high school resume. And I will work very hard at college. I will work now to earn the money to get into it. And so I promise you I'll do very well. And he did very well. And again, another similarity, I did the same thing practically with my dean of my university. I was running out of money and didn't have any more money. And so I went to the dean and said, I need help, and you need to give it to me because I deserve to go to college more than anybody else. And so I've always been shocked at my ability to do that. While he's at college, he begins writing plays. And his first play, called No Villain in 1936, won a cash prize from the university. He wrote another play in 1937, and it won the second, again, the same cash prize, but a second time. After he graduates the university, because he did get through the University of Michigan, he worked at the Brooklyn Naval Yard by day and wrote radio plays at night. In 1940, we're getting close to the World War II, he marries a woman named Mary Grace Slattery, and he also received a military service exemption from World War II because of a football injury. He writes his first play that actually gets on Broadway. It was called The Man Who Had All the Luck, but apparently the play didn't have much luck. It did win another award, but it closed after 4 performances, and had terrible reviews. He tried his hand at other forms of writing. He wrote what seems like it's a semi-novel, semi-memoir called Situation Normal, and it was basically a memoir of World War II life in the military. Then in 1945, he published a book called Focus. Again, okay received and not very well critically received. It was a novel about a guy who wakes up in the middle of the night, he hears a woman screaming, and he does nothing about it. And that bothers him the rest of his life until he actually is in a situation where he's screaming for help. But finally, in 1947, he scores success. This is the movie poster of All My Sons. It was very successful. It was the story of after World War II, there were all these movies and films that came out about corruption of the contractors that supported the war effort. In this case, it was a family business, and the father knowingly sold airplane engine manifolds to the military, knowing that they were defective. And so there were lots of plane crashes as a result of it, including eventually his own son crashes. But they don't think he crashed because of the broken manifold. Instead, they think he's committed suicide. And this becomes a major theme that we're going to talk about a lot, a father-son relationship. So the father is the one that knowingly sold the corrupt manifolds, and there's another son who comes back, like Biff in Death of a Salesman, and eventually finds out what happened and confronts the father. It was a major box office success, running for 328 performances. Miller was awarded what actually turned out to be the first Tony Award ever for a writer. The director, Elia Kazan, won the Tony Award for the best director. And this all seems to be very impressive one of the reviewers described it as a very depressing play in a time of great optimism. So he was writing this depressing play, even though America was in this World War II, post World War II optimism. So he's a success now. He takes the money from this play and he buys some property in Roxbury, Connecticut, and he builds a studio by hand, like Willie, by hand, where he's going to write the rest of his life. The inspiration for Willie Loman comes from for Willie Loman and Death of a Salesman comes from a moment connected to All My Sons. What happens is he's coming into the lobby of performance of All My Sons, and he meets his uncle unexpectedly. But the uncle ignores what should be the normal social cues and doesn't congratulate him, but instead says, "My son Buddy is doing very well." And Miller begins to think, "Oh my God, my uncle thinks I'm a loser, and he thinks there's some kind of competition I have with my cousin." So he thinks about that a lot. It just becomes an obsession. What was my uncle? What is he thinking? What is he going on? And what does he think about this relationship? This is really weird and absurd. As a side note, the uncle later committed suicide. And with the studio now complete, Miller takes these thoughts about his uncle and begins to write what will become Death of a Salesman. In fact, he wrote the first act of the play. And remember, there's only 2 acts and 1 requiem. He wrote the first act of the play on the first day and completed the play in like 6 weeks. And then Death of a Salesman now becomes a major success. It runs for 742 performances and wins many, many, many awards. And we will talk about Death of a Salesman more after we finish the biography. So now, at this point, now Miller's done Death of a Salesman, All My Sons, all major successes on Broadway. He has now become a major celebrity. He's got a political voice that he uses. It isn't just the plays that he's talking. He talks in the media about what's going on in politics in the world. And then he continues to become one of the great voices of American theater. In the meantime, we have this guy that you see on the screen, Senator Joseph McCarthy, a Republican from Wisconsin, who set up this House Un-American Activities Committee. And what they're doing is they've become convinced that the government, that the culture, that everything, there's communists that are secretly working against the American government. So they are the enemy within. They are communists in government, in the arts, in the military, and he is calling people before this committee and grilling them and asking them, "You need to tell me who are these communists that are hurting our government." And in 1952, they call Elia Kazan. Remember, I mentioned him. He had directed All My Sons, and he will go on to direct Death of a Salesman. In 1952, they call Elia Kazan before the committee, and they ask him, "Tell us the names of other communists." And Elia Kazan does that in this major betrayal of the friends that he has. And in fact, this just destroys Kazan's relationship with Miller. Kazan eventually directed a film called On the Waterfront, starring Marlon Brando in 1954, which is commonly interpreted as his defense of what he did, of why he named names, why he told people that they were in communists and they were going to get in trouble. They would become blacklisted. They would lose their careers because they were named before this committee. So Kazan directs a film called On the Waterfront. Miller responds with a play called A View from the Bridge in 1955. And it's got a very similar plot in that they're both about corrupt longshoremen, the people who load boats. But On the Waterfront, the guy who turns the bad people in is a hero, and in A View from the Bridge, the guy who turns them in is doing it for corrupt reasons. And so again, Elia Kazan is out of his life forever. As a result of the House for Un-American Activities, he writes a play in 1953 called The Crucible. Again, I was in that play. You'll see my program here. I was Reverend Hale, one of the major characters in it. And he says this play is not a history in the sense in which the word is used by the academic historian. What he did was he dramatized the events. He collapsed characters. He made one character out of multiple people in the play. He made it simpler in order to dramatize it and put it on stage in 2 hours. You can't have it be as complicated as it is in real life. In real life, the Salem, Massachusetts witch hunts happened in 1692 and 1693. 200 people were accused of witchcraft. 30 were found guilty. 19 of them hung. One was crushed by rocks. He was being tortured to admit that he was a witch, and he wouldn't do it. And so they put so many rocks on him that he eventually died. And then 5 died in prison because of the bad conditions. Interestingly, the play failed on its first run. Miller blamed the production, the set. This is all wrong. They did it wrong. It wasn't right. So he recast the play with a new production, and it became a major success. The Arthur Kennedy, who we'll see was in Death of a Salesman, and E.G. Marshall, another significant actor of the time, were in it. And now it is the most performed play in the United States still to this day. It was an obvious allegory for the Red Scare. The witch hunt for the witches in Salem, Massachusetts is the same as the hunt for communists in Washington, D.C. In fact, the allegory was so obvious that Miller was stopped from going to London for the English premiere of The Crucible because now the House for Un-American Activities has him in their radar. In 1956, he's called before the committee. Before the testimony is going to happen, they tell him that, no, you're not going to have to name names. You're not going to have to tell us who your friends are that are communists. So don't worry about that. But when he's called into the hearing, he is indeed asked to name communists in the theater industry, and the communists that he hangs around with that are in the theater industry, and he refuses. And at this point, you have to realize this was a major issue in the United States, and to refuse to answer the question was a big deal. That everybody, kind of like we are now with Trump, is afraid of Trump. Is afraid of the House for Un-American Activities, and so a lot of people answered the question, but he refused, and as a result, he was blacklisted and found guilty of contempt of Congress. But Miller didn't stand by and let this just happen. He appealed it, the conviction, and the sentence was eventually reversed. Now, the theme for the rest of his life, I'm going to call as controversy. He's always doing something controversial, so he's in the press. He's getting covered. So he divorces his first wife, and on June 29th, 1956, he marries Marilyn Monroe, who you see in this picture. That's Arthur Miller cutting the wedding cake with Marilyn Monroe. She was a major superstar at the time. And it was just very controversial at the time that he had married her, because everybody said, how can this nerdy guy who's skinny and wears glasses, how can he be marrying Marilyn Monroe, this major sex bot? How could that work? And the marriage before Arthur Miller, she'd been married to Joe DiMaggio, who was an iconic baseball star. And so it just didn't make sense to the world. And in fact, it really didn't make sense in life. Marilyn Monroe did convert to Judaism, trying to make sure that the relationship would work. But she had a drug habit that was horrible. And Arthur Miller did a lot of bad things in the relationship too. We'll talk about it after the fall. So the next thing that Miller works on is a screenplay based on his short story, The Misfits. And again, this is a major blockbuster at the time. It's got all the big stars in it. Clark Gable, Marilyn Monroe, Montgomery Clift are all at the top of their careers, and they will become screen legends. It's directed by another famous screen person, John Huston. But Marilyn causes lots of production delays because of her drug problems. She will take drugs, she'll arrive late, she just doesn't show up on certain days. And so the performance is the production is delayed, but they do eventually get it out on and show the premiere on February 1st, 1961. But before the premiere, Clark Gable dies. And in fact, Marilyn Monroe and Arthur Miller file for divorce on January 20th, 1961. And so it doesn't even last the making of this film, their marriage. On February 17th, 1962, Arthur Miller marries another woman named Inga Marath. She was a photographer that he met on the set of The Misfits, and they remained for the rest of her life. So she died in 2002, and so they were married for 40 years. In 1964, Miller produces a play called After the Fall, a play that is obviously autobiographical with sections that are clearly related to his marriage, the beginning of it and the end of it, how he met and married Marilyn Monroe. It's a fictionalization, it's a different character, but it's clearly Marilyn Monroe, a blonde, sexy woman. He talks about his testimony before the House Un-American Activities Committee and how that affected his relationship. In the play, it's a fictional character who's a lawyer who is another lawyer, names the names in before the committee. And then it also shows how he meets and marries Inga Marath. Did not go over well. The critics really did not like it. They called it an act of exhibitionism, which makes all of us voyeurs. And it's a 3.5-hour breach of taste. I actually happen to like the play. It's even more experimental than Death of a Salesman, jumping back and forth, having characters out of sequence talking to each other. So his mother will talk to a woman that he married later. So it's a very interesting play, and I really like it a lot. But from 1968 on, his plays really begin to go downhill. They're all received poorly by critics. They close quickly on the stage. It's just no longer, people don't think these are not significant additions to the corpus of his work. He died in 2005 at the age of 2005 of bladder cancer and heart failure. But he still managed to go out with another controversy. About a year before he died, he announced that he was in love with a 34-year-old painter. He's 88, and he's in love with a 34-year-old painter. After he dies, his daughter kicks the girlfriend out of the house that the painter was sharing with Miller. So sort of another controversial end to his thing. So let's go next to the performance history. What I want you to do now is I want you to picture yourself. It's February 10th, 1949. You've just come in from the lights of Broadway, the bright lights, and you're coming into the Morosco Theater in New York City. There's the audience noise, you're hearing that. And as it goes on, suddenly the lights go down and the audience quiets. And then suddenly you hear this music. Miller describes it in the introduction to his play as a melody is heard, played upon a flute. It is small and fine, telling of grass and trees and the horizon. The curtain rises. So this was the music from Death of a Salesman. It starred an all-star cast for the time. Lee J. Cobb is Willie Loman. Arthur Kennedy is Biff the son. Mildred Dunnick is the mother, Linda, and Cameron Mitchell is Happy. All of these actresses actors and actresses were famous at the time. They are in the plays of Broadway, the big plays of the time. However, the rest of their careers don't go so well. They are. I remember as a kid, Lee J. Cobb. He was a character in the In Like Flint, a spoof of James Bond movies. He was in The Exorcist. Arthur Kennedy, even though he was in Glass Menagerie as a let's say young actor, he goes on. Well, he's in Lawrence of Arabia, but he does a TV series called Fantastic Voyage. Mildred Dunnick was in, again, Elvis Presley's first movie, Love Me Tender, in a lot of Tennessee Williams plays, but also ended up doing basically bit parts on television. Cameron Mitchell, he was in a TV show called High Chaparral. What you see on the screen here is on the top picture on the left-hand side is the scene in the restaurant where Happy and Willie are talking to, Happy and Biff are talking to Willie. And remember at one scene, Biff kneels in front of his father. So I know exactly what's going on in this picture. The picture on the bottom left is Elia Kazan. In, I think it was the late 80s, he got an honorary Academy Award for his work in the film industry. He was, as I say here, another major presence in Broadway theater at the time, but the career on Broadway was shortened, and eventually he was able to come back and do more film. He founded a famous organization called the Actors Studio, where they followed the work of Russian director Stanislavski and taught method acting. Marlon Brando was a famous method actor. He was an actor's director for plays and films, including Streetcar Named Desire, a play and a film, by The Skin of Our Teeth by Thornton Wilder, and the film On the Waterfront, as I talked about. In this particular picture, he's receiving his Academy Award, but much of the audience, because of his House for Un-American Activity naming names, the audience walks out of the theater as he's receiving the award. There are demonstrations outside the theater where the Academy Awards are, because it's still so important that he did this, that people still remember it 30 years later. But the play went on. It was amazing. It won the Tony Award for Best Play, Pulitzer Prize for Drama. Arthur Kennedy won the Best Actor Award, and there were other awards, Best Scenic Design, Best Dramatic Producer, Best Author. They just won everything that year because it was such a great play and a great performance. It was so great that you see here a list of all the things of the revivals and film versions of it. In 1951, there was a film with much of the original Broadway cast on it. In 1963, the Guthrie Theater was founded and in Minneapolis, and it is the first major regional theater. Broadway had always been the center of theater in America, and when they founded the Guthrie Theater, they were trying to say, there can be great theater elsewhere in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the first play that they performed was Death of a Salesman. In 1966, there was a TV version with Lee J. Cobb from the original cast, Mildred Dunnick as Linda, and Gene Wilder as Bernard. In 1975, George C. Scott did it at the Circle in the Square Theater in New York. 1984, Dustin Hoffman and John Malkovich did it at the Broadhurst Theater, and they also produced a film of it. In 1999, Brian Dennehy did it at the Eugene O'Neill Theater, also another film. In 2012, Philip Seymour Hoffman did it at the Ethel Barrymore Theater, and it was directed by a famous director, Mike Nichols. So you can see, what do we have? Six major productions of it on Broadway and outside the rest of the company. But this is just the beginning. There are productions all over the world, in London, India, Germany. There's a production in China that is directed by Miller himself. And there are films made of it in the Soviet Union in the time of communism, Germany and Sweden. These are a few images that I selected. In the upper left-hand corner, that's Brian Dennehy as Arthur Lemmy. He's the second one in from the left. In the lower lower left-hand side, that's Philip Seymour Hoffman as Willie Loman. He's the one next to the table. Dustin Hoffman and John Malkovich do a film of it, and this is the film poster. On the far right-hand side is the Chinese cast that Miller directed. So again, it has just been all over the world. So what I want to do now is talk a little bit about what influenced Miller and Death of a Salesman. It comes against the 19th and early 20th century of American theater sucked. They were just horrible. There were all these melodramas. Eugene O'Neill's play Long Day's Journey to Night, his father was one of the actors in a play called The Count of Monte Cristo that just went everywhere. There were these overdone Shakespeare productions, melodramas where, literally the trope about a woman, damsel in distress being tied to a railroad by rope by the evil guy. That happens in 19th century American theater. But luckily, Europe provided three major revolutionary influences for change. Henrik Ibsen is the one at the top here. I'd like to see Salesman in those set of sideburns. Ibsen was Norwegian, the father of realism. His famous play, as a matter of fact, if you look at the screen, if you have nothing to do on a weekend and you can get hold of these plays, every one of these is a great read. They're just wonderful. So Doll's House in 1879, Hedda Gabler in 1890. Miller even wrote an adaptation of Ibsen's Enemy of the People, a play about a scientist who turns in the water commission of a town saying that the water is bad, it's contaminated, and yet the city fathers continue to say, yes, you should drink that water. August Strindberg is the second influence I want to talk about. He was Swedish, and he started off very close to Ibsen as a realist playwright, but then he moves on to Expressionism. So The Fathers in 1887, in Miss Julie is in 1888. Those are realism. There's actually an article where in Miss Julie, this guy lists 42 things that cause Miss Julie to do what she does in the play. It goes through in very detail. She did this because of this, did this because of that, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very realistic. But then he develops and he goes on to Expressionism. Probably his greatest definition of that is a dream play, which in the original version didn't play in Scandinavia. It was too controversial for it. It played in Germany and Paris to begin with. And they actually performed the play behind a see-through screen. So you were separated from the cast by this screen. You could still see through it. The light's shone through it. But that gave you the image of a dream. And so that's very significant for the Expressionists. Then the last influence is Anton Chekhov, a Russian who worked with Stanislavski's Moscow Art Theater. Two of his most famous plays are The Seagull and The Cherry Orchard. These three then influence the greatest playwright of America, Eugene O'Neill. He lived from 1888 to 1953. And in that time, there was this career development. He started off with a lot of one-act plays, some full-length plays that were plays of the sea. He'd left his father, who really was the actor in Count of Monte Cristo. He wanted to get away from him, so he went out to sea. And after he comes back from the sea, he writes all these plays about the sea. The Hairy Ape is this guy who loads coal in steamers. And so he's like this monstrously big guy and lives in a hole of the ship, shoveling coal to keep the engines going. Then he goes through this period of what I'll describe as experimental full-length domestic dramas. Strange Interlude and Morning Becomes Electra are two examples. Strange Interlude, if you read it, what happens is the lines that are spoken out loud are in bigger type than the lines that are said interiorly, that the other people don't hear them, but you as the audience hear them. So they go back and forth. It's like every speech, every line has a soliloquy where the person is speaking, you're hearing their mind thinking. Morning Becomes Electra. He took Greek mythology and turned it into a Southern story. So the Electra, who loved her father, is in this play, and it's reproduced in the pre-Civil War South. And then in the end, he publishes an autobiographical plays, very autobiographical plays. The Iceman Cometh is about a salesman, Harry Hope. And again, the American dream that we're going to be talking about. Hope is the name of the salesperson. One play is so intensely personal, Long Day's Journey into Night, he doesn't publish it. He doesn't allow anybody to see it until after he's dead. And as you can see, it's actually produced 3 years after he dies. So here's just a few images associated with Eugene O'Neill. Here he is on the left-hand side on the March 17th, 1924 issue of Time magazine. In the middle, the program for Morning Becomes Electra. Going right, Lee Marvin as Harry Hope in the film of Iceman Cometh. One of my favorite films on the far right-hand side is Long Day's Journey into Night. And I didn't get a very good image here. It's Katharine Hepburn as the mother and Ralph Richardson as the father of the Eugene O'Neill character. And you know you're famous in America when you get in the upper right-hand corner, when you get a stamp made of you. So he has a stamp made of him. So Eugene O'Neill kicks it off. And now here comes the golden age of American drama. We have all these brilliant playwrights and plays that come out in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Arthur Miller is one of them. Tennessee Williams does The Glass Menagerie and Streetcar Named Desire. Clifford Odets is Waiting for Lefty. He was one of the communist playwrights that was named. Elmer Rice does, oh, by the way, Tennessee Williams is the first one on the left. Clifford Odets is the one in the middle. Lillian Hellman, who does Children's Hour and Little Foxes, is the last one on the right. And then down below, you see one of my favorite plays, Elmer Rice, The Street Scene. He's not really recognized that much, but he was very famous at the time. But I think he's a really good playwright. So what did Miller learn from these influences? Well, realism. That's the first thing, that you have that realism aspect to him. All of his plays are realistic situations in scenes off the street, but psychological motivation plays a very big part. It's an everyday physical setting, the house of Willy Loman, but despite all of these characteristics, Miller asks for an expressionistic stage setting. He wants a dream rising out of reality. And you can see that's sort of true in this picture that I have here on the right-hand side. What's interesting is his original request was that he wanted the stage to be a brain, that the brain was going to arch over the house, and it was going to be Willy Loman's brain. It was going to be, so we would see that this is his memory. It's his mind that we're talking about. Again, so that expressionistic, that set is very expressionistic. I'm trying to see if you see the washing machine that they talk about, the Hastings washing machine that breaks down all the time. He's very original in his use of flashbacks, and even sometimes flashbacks within flashbacks. He writes in a very poetic language at times. And in fact, again, going back to this expressionistic expression, he does these interior presentations of the past, in physical form. So one of the big issues that came out after the Death of a Salesman was performed is, well, is Death of a Salesman a tragedy? Can it be a tragedy? Tragedies were usually about kings, gods, people on high who fell. And in fact, Aristotle, I call him the great classifier. He wrote works where he would tell you about animals, and he'd classify all the animals. He'd tell you about fish. He'd classify all the fish. He'd tell you about governments, classify all the governments. Well, he also did that in the Poetics to drama and poetry. He says that there's two kinds of expression, poetry and drama. And within drama, imagine an outline. Within drama, there's two types, tragedy and comedy. You see on the left-hand side the picture, this is a famous Renaissance picture of Plato and Aristotle. Plato is the one holding his hand out flat. I'm sorry, Plato is the one with his finger pointing up. He believed that the forms were in a, I don't know if you want to call it a dimension, but the forms are there. And so, a chair is a chair, even though the chair I'm sitting on and the office chair that's at my desk, even though they're completely different, somewhere there's a form of a chair so that both chairs are chairs. And then Aristotle is holding his hand out flat. So Plato says, look above, look out of earth. It is not earth that matters. It is not the world that matters. The world is a shadow. In a famous metaphor that he says, he describes the world. We as men are we're in a cave, and there's a candle, and on the candle, we see shadows. And those shadows are the world that we see. But they're shadows. They're not the real thing. They're shadows. And so that's why he's pointing up. Aristotle, on the other hand, says there's nothing but the earth. The earth is everything. What we see is what we get. And so he's holding his hand out flat. And so it's this brilliant image of the different philosophies of Aristotle and Plato. So there's two types of drama, Aristotle says. In the Poetics, Book 6, he defines the tragedy as an imitation, the Greek word mimesis, of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude. In language, embellished in each kind of artistic ornament, the several kinds being found in separate parts of the play, in the form of action, not of narrative, through pity or fear, affecting the proper purgation, the Greek word catharsis, of these emotions. Aristotle said, this is what Oedipus Rex by Sophocles does. It's an example, it's the best example to show you, he says, because it's the best play there is. And so, again, let's sort of summarize what he said. There's also unities of time. And he specifically says it's confining itself to a single revolution of the sun. So a play should only take place in one day. There should only be one action. There should only be something starts here and ends here, and we follow it through the play. And place. It's all in one physical location. And so there's the unities of time, action, and place. According to, forgive my Greek pronunciation here, according to Aristotle, there should be a peripeteia, which is a reversal of situation or intent, and anagnorisis. In Oedipus, that reversal of intention is, if you remember the story of Oedipus, he solves the riddle of the Sphinx. He goes on. There's this mean guy confronts him on the road. They have a fight. He kills the mean guy. He goes on to Thebes, where the Thebes is mourning. They've lost their king. They don't know what happened to him. He's gone. And so they come in, and Oedipus looks like a pretty big guy, a pretty good guy, and they make him king. And as king, he gets to marry the queen. So he goes on like that. But, things go rotten in Thebes. All of a sudden, there's all this sickness, and what's going on? So Oedipus goes to a seer, and the seer says, well, it's because there's this great evil in town, and you're the evil. You killed your father, that was the guy out on the road, and you married your mother. And he goes crazy, and he rips out his eyes. And so Aristotle says it's best when that peripeteia, the reversal of intention or a situation, and the anagnorisis, the recognition scene, happen at the same time. So when the seer is telling Oedipus what's going on, we have it. Here's the reversal, seer says, and Oedipus goes, oh my God, that's the recognition scene. So did anyone else besides the Greeks follow Aristotle? Well, let's go through a few of our great tragedians. Shakespeare, obviously. I'm going to go through and sort of say, he has the elevated language. Yes, he has actions and characters of a certain magnitude. Hamlet is a prince, Macbeth is a king, King Lear is a king, but definitely no to the unities. In Germany, Schiller writes tragedies, and he says, yeah, I think you can say elevated language there. Yes to actions and characters of a certain magnitude. Don Carlos, Mary Stuart, rulers of their respective countries, but no to the unities. In France, there's Corneille and Racine. Yes, they use elevated language. Yes, they use actions and characters of a certain magnitude. Le Cid, who frees Spain, Andromaque, Phaedra, characters from Greek mythology. Though they do sort of say to themselves, well, really, I don't think Aristotle would have been so strict. I think he would have approved of, a few changes. And so we have some comedy in their plays. And so, yes, there's unities, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And so, he they follow some of the rules, but not all of the rules. So now let's think, what did Arthur Miller think? Well, he says the tragic hero must be neither villain nor virtuous man, but a man who is not eminently good and just, yet whose misfortune is brought about not by vice or depravity, but by some error or flexibility. He's very conscious that he's playing with this. So in the play, Linda says about him, then make Charlie your father, Biff. You can't do that, can you? I don't say he's a great man. William Molman never made a lot of money. His name was never in the paper. He's not the finest character that ever lived, but he's a human being, and a terrible thing is happening to him. So attention must be paid. He's not allowed to fall into his grave like an old dog. Attention must finally be paid to such a person. So he's not a king. He's just a plain old everyman. And even at one point, Biff says, Biff, the girls have just come into the restaurant, and they're asking, is that really your father? And Biff says, Miss Forsyth, you've just seen a prince walk by, a fine, troubled prince, a hardworking, unappreciated prince, a pal, you understand, a good companion, always for his boys. So those are two themes of Arthur Miller. The father, he's there. He's my guy I play with. He's my role model. But he's also imperfect, a man not eminently good and just, whose misfortune is brought about not by a vice or depravity, but by some error or flexibility. So let's just take a moment. We'll do our own little Aristotelian checklist of Death of a Salesman. So was there an action serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude? Well, Willie and the family are not loyal, but the actions do lead to the most serious issue of all, suicide. Is the language embellished? He at one point said, I prize the poetic above all else in the theater. But it's often on pretty mundane subjects. They're everyday conversations. Unity of action. Yes, we start off with Willie walking in the door, having just come back, and he's worried about the world, and we end up at his grave. So that is one continuous action. Unities of time and place. Well, it really does take place. The main body, Acts 1 and 2, takes place in one day. So it's got the unity of place, or unity of time. But is it place? Well, you could say it is, because we have this experimental set, which isn't really real. We see that it's all in one place. It's all in that house, but he gets away with it by also having flashbacks, and the flashbacks can be at different places and times. And finally, the peripeteia ending with the, I hate this word, anagnorisis, ending in purgation. And I think we really do have that with the Requiem scene. I think that's very much that happening. So the first theme I want to talk about in terms of the Death of the Salesman is the American dream. Now, one thing I want to warn you is it is a big issue, but I say a great playwright, a great writer does not give you an answer. in high school, I was often asked to write about what's the theme of this play. And what I believe I now know is that's not really true. If it's a great play, that could be true in certain things. But if it's a great play, a great novel, it's not one thing or the other. It shows you the stuff. So the way I say it here is A plus B doesn't necessarily always equal C. It's not about a theorem. It's not about a mathematical process where I know what I'm being told and I'm being told this. I need to know this about this play. The play is meant to provoke thought and conversation. I think when people left the play on February 28th, 1949, there were lots of discussions about what was going on. Wow, can you believe he did that? What was that? Why? What was going on? And so a play, a great novel, doesn't give you a theme. It doesn't tell you A plus B equals C. It tells you, I want you to think about this. I want you to talk about it. And The American Dream is a big part of Death of a Salesman. It's a big part of American literature and history. It starts from the very beginning. The Declaration of Independence declared that we have certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Horace Greeley, a famous newspaper man, was asked once, what should I, by a young man, he said, what should I do? What should I do? And Horace Greeley says 4 words, go west, young man. And that's exactly what we see in Willie's brother, Ben. When I was 17, I walked into the jungle. When I was 21, I walked out, and by God, I was rich. So go somewhere, go to Alaska, go to Africa, go west. That's what an American does, according to the American Dream. The autobiography of one of our founding fathers, Ben Franklin, he says that the autobiography, he's writing a bold and arduous project of arriving at moral perfection. He uses a calendar to track his successes, and his famous saying, saving a penny is earning a penny. My favorite novel is throughout American literature, people are trying to write the great American novel. And 9.9 times out of 10, the great American novel is about the great dream, the great American dream. And so in Great Gatsby, at the end of it, after Gatsby has died, his father hands the narrator, Nick Carraway, a copy of Hopalong Cassidy. And in the back of it, there's a set of general resolves that Gatsby has written down. I'm going to exercise 15 minutes. I'm going to do that. I'm going to improve myself by reading a book. And he's going to use that to get ahead. Just, again, talking about Theodore Dreiser has a novel called The American Tragedy, which is about the American dream. Edward Albee has a play called The American Dream. It's a theme repeated again and again. John Steinbeck with the Okies going out to California, leaving their past and going to California in this great hope, which turns out to be horrible. Toni Morrison, you name it. Any major American author has probably dealt with the American dream at one point. Even the comedian George Carlin has probably the greatest one-sentence description of it. It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it. And so that with that as our background, let's go look now. I think one way I like to look at plays is I like to look at the characters, and I try to think to myself, what changed about those characters? And usually the character that changed is the main character. So what changed about the character? What were the changes? Why did those changes happen? And what do those changes tell us about the work? So my first character I'm going to take a look at is Bernard. As you'll remember, he's the 90-pound weakling who's always hanging around with Happy and Biff, and telling them that they need to do their math homework and they should stop stealing footballs, and a joke, a butt of all the jokes going on. He gets to carry the shoulder pads into the stadium when he goes to the championship football game. And yet he turns out to be the only positive example of the American dream in the play. Charlie, the father of Bernard. How do you like that kid? Gonna argue a case in front of the Supreme Court. Bernard protesting. Pop. Willie, genuinely shocked, pained, and happy. No, the Supreme Court? Bernard, I gotta run. Bye, Dad. Charlie, knock him dead, Bernard. Bernard goes off. Willie, as Charlie takes out his wallet. The Supreme Court, and he didn't even mention it. He don't have to. He's going to do it. So he turns out to be a success. He works. He doesn't steal footballs. He does his homework, and he's going to argue a case before the Supreme Court. Happy. Well, Happy, I don't think so. I don't think he's the main character. Let's see how Arthur Miller introduces him. Biff is 2 years older than his brother Happy, well built, but in these days bears a worn air and seems less self-assured. He has succeeded less, and his dreams are stronger and less acceptable than Happy. Happy is tall, powerfully made. Sexuality is like a visible color on him, or a scent that many women have discovered. He, like his brother, is lost, but in a different way. For he has never allowed himself to turn his face toward defeat, and is thus more confused and hard-skinned, although seemingly more content. He probably is the purest negative example of the American dream. Kind of pathetic, the way he hangs around, what he does at work. He's obsequious at times, except when it comes to sex. He does that thing where when he's with his father, every time he drops to the floor and starts bicycling and see Dad, I'm losing weight. And in a scene that is like Peter and Jesus, he denies that Willie is his father. He denies a part of his existence. How about female characters in general? Well, that I would say is the one failure of Death of a Salesman. I think the female characters are a bit flat. Let's ignore it. There's two types of women in this play: the classic Madonna or the classic whore. Stereotypes of women that are not good. Linda is the long-suffering saint. The others, the woman in Boston and Miss Forsyth, are about as close as you can get to prostitutes. One is takes stockings and says, "I'll get you into the buyers," and Miss Forsyth seems a little bit abnormally accepting of. She doesn't. She says she doesn't happen to sell, but she's a little bit too easily impressed with expensive champagne and the claims of a fake football star. Linda specifically, again, I don't think there's a lot of development in her. I think she does hold. I mean, she's significant. I'm not saying that she's not important, but she's not the main character. She's not the character that changes. She holds the family together throughout the play. She's self-reliant. She knits her own stocking. She gives unconditional love. She loves her husband no matter what he's doing. He can be interrupting her and telling her to shut up and go away, and yet she still continues to love him. In fact, she does this so much that some critics blame her. They say maybe if she had used some tough love on her husband, on her sons, that maybe things might have turned out differently. But we don't know. She's the one that's going to hold the family together, and but is not going to change. So now we go to the two big examples, I think. Willie is probably the next one. He's the title character. He's the salesman of the play. He and you can even see, look at this on the right-hand side, the top one. This is a drawing of the original set. And what I really like about it is Willie is on the left side. You can see him holding his briefcase, and then that huge shadow on the back of the stage reflecting him. And so, he could be the title character, but my problem is he's the same at the beginning as at the end. He's thinking about committing suicide at the beginning. He actually does. He constantly has this two sides to his character. 1 minute, he says, "That's what I mean. Bernard can get the best marks in school, you understand, but when he gets out of the business world, you understand, you are going to be 5 times ahead of him. That's why I thank Almighty God you're both built like Adonises. Because the man who makes an appearance in the business world, the man who creates personal interest, is the man who gets ahead. Be liked and you will never want. You take me, for instance, I never have to wait in line to see a buyer. Willie Loman is here. That's all they have to know. And I go right through." But on the reverse side, he says to Linda, "I'm fat. I'm very foolish to look at, Linda. I didn't tell you, but Christmas time, I happened to be calling on F.H. Stewart's, and a salesman I know, as I was going in to see the buyer, I heard him say something about walrus, and I cracked him right across the face. I won't take that. I simply will not take that. But they do laugh at me. I know that. So we have this going back and forth in Willie Loman between this complete success of the salesman. That's the name Singleman. Remember, he has that character that he remembers. His last name is Singleman. Obviously, Single Man is the name of it, and that's his role model as a salesman. But he also has this other side of him where he can put up a ceiling. He's a carpenter. He can do things with his hands, and he goes back and forth between that. Which do I want to be? He wants to remember his father, who disappeared somewhere in the Midwest, but he was selling flutes. So again, selling, fluting, the artistic side of him. He looks for advice from his brother. I'm sorry, I keep saying his uncle. It's Biff's uncle. But he hates and resents his next door neighbor, Charlie, who also gives him opposing advice. And so, again, I don't think he really changes. He's obviously a significant portion of the play, but I don't think you can say he changes. Next proposal is Biff. The picture at the bottom of the right-hand side is Ebbets Field. Remember that he is going to play a football game there for the city championship. Oh, wait, I want to read something. Sorry, I want to read something about Willie before I go. Oh, the proof of the salesmanship of Willie. Charlie at the funeral says, nobody does blame this man. You don't understand. Willie was a salesman. And for a salesman, there is no rock bottom to the life. You don't put a bolt to a nut. He don't tell you the law or give you medicine. He's a man way out there in the blue, riding on a smile and a shoe shine. And when they start not smiling back, that's an earthquake. And then you get yourself a couple of spots on your hat and you're finished. Nobody does blame this man. A salesman has got to dream, boy. It comes with the territory. So going back to Biff, I think he's the main character. We start off with Willie saying early on, Biff Loman is lost. In the greatest country in the world, a young man with such personal attractiveness gets lost. And such a hard worker. There's one thing about Biff. He's not lazy. So he started off as this Adonis, this American football star, which is, there's nothing better than being in America. He should be successful. That's all there is to it. But according to the American dream, he's got the looks, he's got the work. He's going to be successful. But he wrecks that opportunity by stealing basketballs. Again, like his father, he gets contradictory signals from the people in his life. At one point, Ben says, the jails are full of, Linda says, the jails are full of fearless characters. And Ben responds, and the stock exchange. So in the end, I believe Biff is the only person who changes and has an epiphany. And that epiphany happens at the end of the play. No, nobody's hanging himself, Willie. I ran down 11 flights of stairs with a pen in my hand today. And suddenly I stopped. You hear me? And in the middle of that office building, do you hear this? I stopped in the middle of that building and I saw the sky. I saw the things that I love in this world. The work, the food, and the time to sit and smoke. And I looked at the pen and I said to myself, what the hell am I grabbing this for? What am I trying? What am I doing in an office, making a contemptuous, begging fool of myself when all I want is out there waiting for the minute I say I know who I am? Why can't I say that, Willie? Willie says, the door of your life is wide open. Pop, I'm a dime a dozen, and so are you, Willie. I'm not a dime a dozen. I'm Willie Loman, and you are Biff Loman. I'm not a leader of men, Willie, and neither are you. You were never anything but a hardworking drummer who landed in the ash can like all the rest of them. I'm $1 an hour, Willie. I tried 7 states and I couldn't raise it. $1 an hour. Do you gather my meaning? I'm not bringing home any prizes anymore, and you're going to stop waiting for me to bring them home. There's the moment. He realizes what he is, what he wants, and where he's going to go. And that's the epiphany. So my point vote is Biff is the main character of the play, the one who changes, the one who realizes what his life and American life is. And with that, we'll go on to questions if you have any.
Thank you, Francis. It was a wonderful presentation, as always you used to do. So we will invite any questions. Dr. Sam, would you please lead the question and answer session?
Yes, sir.
Maybe the participants can type the questions in the chat box.
Yes, sir. Sure. Dear participants, if you have any questions to Mr. Heed, you can type it in the chat box or you can unmute yourself.
And I'm looking at the chat box now, so.
Dear participants, do you have any questions?
Please feel free to ask questions. I love, as Selvin will tell you, I love talking.
Okay, Francis, I will ask the questions and
Okay.
people will follow asking because that is the psychology. Okay. Francis, nowadays, maybe I'm just going to talk facts as facts, not anything political, but nowadays you see looks like making America big again. And do you see a contradiction in making America big again and the American dream, the failing American dream? What Arthur Miller would say if he is alive in 2025?
Well, I think we're worried about it. Definitely. Well, part of the American dream was social mobility. I could be the son of a mechanic, came from a very poor family, and would eventually become vice president of a big company. That was doable. I get a feeling now that social mobility is getting a lot more limited than it was. People born in poverty, with the changes that are being made, are probably going to stay in poverty. And so, yeah, that's a big concern that I was actually going to ask you guys whether your opinion of that American dream had changed. Actually, at one of these presentations that I gave for Selvin one time, I actually said that, I felt like in India that you guys are really more likely right now to be socially mobile, to improve yourselves. A lot of the people I worked with Selvin when I was at Advanced Star, their life stories were amazing, and so it's a big deal. It is. A lot of people are very worried about it, that we're going to become a country of billionaires deciding what happens.
Thank you, Francis.
Sir, there is a question from a participant from Sacred College. How do you think this play resonated with American society today?
I still think it works. Obviously, the numbers, a $20,000 life insurance policy, $1 an hour. Nobody makes $1 an hour now. The numbers have changed, but the faces are the same. To me, the thing, Willie Loman gets laid off, and I hate to say it, but I laid off a lot of people in my time, and that is one of the things that happens in today's world is you work a lifetime for somebody. Many of our corporations now. I had a boss who once told me I needed to lay off what I thought were the bottom 10% of my staff. Even though I said all my staff were B's and A's, he said, you still need to lay off the bottom 10%, even if they've worked for you for 20 years. And I just couldn't do that. So I think it's well received, and it's, as you can see, the fact that it's been done so many times. I actually sort of expected there to be another presentation of it on Broadway because of the times that we're in now.
And Francis, I have another question. What do you think about the decline of drama these days? We have two things. One is the decline of reading books and the decline of seeing a stage plays. But we get a lot of good reels, the TikTok reels and these things, right? And it is really, really good. As a farm, do you forecast any change in the genre? Something. I'm just asking a question on genre.
Well, unfortunately, one of my friends would say I'm the wrong person to ask that question to because she goes to many, many contemporary plays. And I really go to performances of classic plays. I go to Shakespeare. I went to a Broadway version of Death of a Salesman. I went to a Broadway version of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. So she says that she thinks contemporary drama is good and it's working. I don't go to enough contemporary plays to tell you for sure.
Okay. We have yet another question that's come from Sam. Would you please? Rekha R asked a question. How will you justify Willie's suicide?
I think Linda's answer is probably the best. It couldn't be justified. It is the tragedy. The tragedy here is that this man feels he has no other option. That is not true. As Linda tells us at the end, forgive me, dear. I can't cry. I don't know what it is, but I can't cry. I don't understand it. Why did you ever do that? Help me, Willie. I can't cry. It seems to me that you're just on another trip. I keep expecting you. Willie, dear, I can't cry. Why did you do it? I search and search and I search and I can't understand it. Willie, I made the last payment on the house today. Today, dear, and there'll be nobody home. So I don't think it is justified. I mean, it is the act of a incomplete, misunderstanding person who just lost his job of his lifetime, and he sees no way out. And there is a way out. He owns his house now. His bills are going to be less. His friend offers to give him a job where he's going to earn $50 a week. So yeah, it's hard to justify it. But it's a great scene in drama.
Yeah.
Do I think Miller criticizes the American dream? Yes, I do. Almost all presentations of the American dream in literature are negative. Maybe Ben Franklin isn't, but most of the time, if you think about that whole fight that Willie has between the handyman guy and the salesman guy. So the life of Singleman that he says was the reason he became a salesman doesn't work anymore. And so it doesn't work because the company would rather, the CEO would rather listen to recordings of his daughter than pay attention to an employee of 30 years.
Francis, is there a mention of whether the family received the insurance money?
Yeah, he's going to get $20,000, but we don't know that they get the $20,000 because there's always a suicide clause in
Yeah.
the life insurance policies, and so
Yeah.
we don't know whether he'll have covered it.
Yeah,
well
because I often used to think that Arthur Miller should have written a second, maybe a sequel to this. The family struggles because of the clause that of suicide, right? I
Yeah,
always used to wonder why Miller didn't write a sequel to this, a failure,
yeah,
yet another failure. Maybe that
yeah,
would have been a big success. Maybe.
exactly. Oh, can Willie be partially a projection of Arthur himself? Um, I think so. I mean, that story that I told about the uncle confronting him, and the uncle clearly has many elements of Willie Loman in him. And so, if anything, I think the bigger part of Arthur Miller is in Biff. But another thing I say about authors is that they put a little bit of themselves in every character. Uh, uh, and so well, maybe not the woman, but every character has a part of the author in it. Arthur Miller was a football player. Uh, I don't know whether he played in the city championship game, but he was a football player on Manhattan. And the reason he got his military exemption is he hurt his knee. And that was one of the reasons he gives to the dean of the University of Michigan that he didn't apply himself in high school, is he was playing football. So there is another thing where Biff was like that. And then you think about even Bernard going to the Supreme Court. Arthur Miller appears in front of Congress. And so he has, it's not a good thing, but he appears in front of Congress. He becomes a national figure.
Correct. Yeah. So only I think it became an American icon. Yeah. Yeah. So only we keep discussing Arthur Miller day after day, semester after semester. He really retains that flavor. Sam, over to you.
So yes, sir, we have one last question. Do you think Miller criticizes his American dream? This question is from Mr. Dinesh Kumar.
And what'd you say? Do you think that Miller lived the American dream?
No, do you think Miller criticizes American dream?
Oh, I definitely think it's a critique of the American dream. Yes. As I say, the singleman, the salesman that Willie Loman became a salesman in recognition of, that doesn't happen to Willie. That it's a singular experience, single man, and so it's more likely that the salesman is going to get laid off when he doesn't make his numbers, when he doesn't, when he's been around too long, when he doesn't understand the technology anymore. When new technology happens, AI can sell the stuff itself. No one's going to care about salesmen then. If we can sell it off of a machine, the American dream will not work.
And Francis, maybe I'm little audacious to ask. Maybe I think if time permits and your calendar permits, maybe after 2 or 3 months, I would love to see you speaking on American theater. That would rather add more depth to a lot of participants. Maybe I will discuss with you separately on that. Just on American theater.
And the examples that I gave are what I'd probably like to discuss. So.
Yeah. In fact, that those slides only triggered this idea.
Yeah. Well, and again, I just tell a story. Our Town is one of another great American play that's done a lot by Thornton Wilder, and I was in it when I was in high school too. And you sort of think of it as it's now been done so much that it's sort of lost a lot of its originality. But then one time when I was in New York, I went to a version of it, and it just blew me away. It was so good because what happens is in Our Town, characters die and they go into a graveyard and they talk from the graveyard, from their graves. And what happened was the play began with this very abstract set. Nothing was real. It was just very abstract. Nothing happened. And then at one point, the one character talks about what she remembers about life, what she what she looks back on with happiness. And at the point she describes the story of what goes on, she starts living it on stage. And then suddenly the set goes from this very abstract set to this totally realistic, it's breakfast time of the woman's birthday. And they're making breakfast and they're making eggs on stage. And it's just incredible. And I'd never thought of it being done that way before. And it just completely changed the play for me. And that's what a great play does. It can be done different ways.
Yes, Francis.
Oh, okay. How does Linda try to protect Willie from his own? Well, she's you see her. She's very very protective, and she just sort of keeps denying things. I'm not fixing the stock. I'm not sewing my stockings. Yeah, we're doing pretty well. We have $65 worth of expenses, and you're making $50 this month. But we'll figure it out. She just constantly doesn't live in reality. She protects them from reality. And then what, can you just explain the difference between the present and past society with comparison to the drama? Well, Salman and I were talking about it before the presentation began. One of the things that's hard about drama right now is that after COVID, when we quit going to plays, it's had a hard time coming back for some reason. And it's weird. Football games have come back, that people go to events outside, but events inside they don't go to as much. And so a lot of theaters are having hard times right now.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, sir. Shall we move on to a formal vote of thanks?
Yes, please.
Yes. So, dear participants, thank you. Good evening. On behalf of the Department of English, St. Joseph University, Dindivanam, I deem it a privilege to propose the vote of thanks at the close of this international webinar on Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. First and foremost, our heartfelt gratitude goes to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Francis Heed, executive producer from USA, for his enlightening and thought-provoking session. Your insights into the play and its enduring themes have truly enriched our academic understanding. We express our sincere gratitude to our founder chairman, Reverend Dr. J. Arulraj, for his inspiring vision and blessings, and to our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Subhaya Bharati, for his constant encouragement. We are deeply grateful to our Pro-Vice Chancellor, Dr. Justice Rabai, for his valuable support, and to Dr. Arul Sili, Deputy Registrar, for her guidance. A special word of appreciation goes to our convener, Reverend Father Devasagayam, whose efforts and coordination made this webinar possible, and to our head of the department, Dr. Selvan, for his leadership and encouragement throughout. We also extend our thanks to the academic coordinators of all the schools, heads of the departments, and faculty members, and our students whose presence and participations have given life to this program. We gratefully acknowledge the DFT team for the excellent media and technical support in ensuring the smooth conduct of today's event. Finally, we thank all the participants from across institutions who joined us on Zoom and also on YouTube. Your enthusiastic involvement and feedback make our efforts worthwhile. With gratitude, we conclude this enriching session and look forward to welcome you again in our future academic endeavors. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you,
Thank you,
Francis.
everyone, for me. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank
for
you.
I appreciate the chance to talk to you all.
Okay, have a good day, Francis.
Bye.
Bye-bye.